news. They hope to have both back before the regular season is all said and done. Jason Walk will lead it off, and the first pitch is a called strike on the outside corner. We are underway. Jason Walk hitting .237. This is start number 11 for him. He's 9 out of 38, playing center field for Spikerman. Spikerman, a team leading .394. So 28 hits and 17 runs out of the OU lineup right at the very top of that Sooner order. Did he go? Apparently not. And the pitch dipped a little bit low. 2 balls and a strike. Jason Walk, freshman from Georgia. Switch hitter up there from the left side. Three balls and a strike. Mentioned the Sooners had a hard time against Lamar last weekend. Walk had a hit in every game of that Lamar series, but OU got swept, although Lamar, a very good team with over 20 wins already this season. And they went into Norman and knocked off the Sooners 12-10, 13-8, and 6-3. Strike 3 called. Walk goes down on strikes, and that's how the game starts. So Walk goes down looking. First strikeout for Daniel Zhang. A good start for him, and he'll encounter Bryce Madron. Madron has been an on-base machine in his time at OU. Coming into this one tonight, he's hitting .356. But he is a guy that has a tremendous grasp for the strike zone. He has walked more than he's struck out in each of his 2 seasons as a regular at OU. Madron, 4 homers, 20 driven in, 7 stolen bases. And this is an OU team that loves to run. So if they are even or ahead on the scoreboard, they will run you to death if you let them. Madron last year in 60 starts hit .320 with 12 home runs and 61 walks. Also swiped 16 bases. He's ahead in the count 3-1 here, which is no surprise. Madron coming into this one, 84 career walks and only 54 strikeouts. And he sees that one wander outside, and he is a 1-out base runner here in the first. So 1 on, 1 out for Easton Carmichael. Mentioned that Zhang has been trying to iron out some command issues over the last couple of outings that he's come out of the pen. Threw an inning back on the 13th against Nebraska and an inning 2 weekends ago against UAB. But you saw the season numbers in the graphic at the very top. 16 walks in 23 innings. That's been the bugaboo for Daniel Zhang. He doesn't give up many hits. He is really hard to hit, but he has doled out a few too many free passes. And he's trying to bounce back and get back in the starting rotation in whatever capacity that might be. Either a consistent midweek starter. That's what's in front of him right now. Carmichael hitting .369 with couple of home runs. Zhang on the season has allowed hitters to only hit .143 against him. He's given up 11 hits in 23 innings. But he has walked the most on the Shocker roster of the pitchers. He has now walked 17. A little excuse me swing from Carmichael. Carmichael, a sophomore from Prosper, Texas. He only went 1 for 11 in the Lamar series last weekend. Saw it off, a little ground ball to Durnan. The only play is going to be first, and a hustling Carmichael is out number 2. So Zhang saws off Carmichael, and there are 2 away in the OU first. Wisely, Cam Durnan didn't even take a peek at second base. If he had, Carmichael would have beaten that out. So 2 down for Anthony McKenzie. That one grabs the outside corner to McKenzie, who was 3 out of 10, I should say, with a home run and 4 RBI against Lamar this past weekend. On Friday, 2 out of 4 with that home run, also walked. 1 ball and 1 strike to Anthony McKenzie. Dating back to a week ago against Oral Roberts, McKenzie has hit safely in 3 of his last 4 multi-hit games against ORU and then that Friday game against Lamar. And that's a little bit outside, ball 4. So 2 walks have kicked the door open for Michael Snyder with 2 down here in the OU first. Snyder tied for the team lead in home runs with 5. And he is the RBI leader with 34 runs batted in for the Sooners. So Zhang has alternated outs with walks here in the first. Michael Snyder, 2 out of 13 in the Lamar series. And he is down in the count 0-2. And Daniel Zhang is a little fortunate that he got that one back. Snyder 7 doubles and 2 triples to go along with those 5 home runs. His 34 runs batted in tops on either club tonight. Fastball at 95, just off the outside corner. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Madron walked with 1 out. McKenzie walked with 2 out. Runners take off and strike 3 called, so all's well that ends well for Daniel Zhang in the shocker first. Wichita State getting Camden Johnson back in the starting lineup. He had the final game of the weekend series off for Wichita State. Alex Burge back behind home plate. Lane Hayworth getting the start in right field, his 3rd start of the year. And that WSU lineup will tangle with Grant Stevens, who's off to an excellent start so far this year for Oklahoma on the mound. He is making start number 3, but the most recent time out there was his best outing of the year. 6 scoreless against Oral Roberts a week ago. There you see the season numbers for him. Oklahoma defensively, as I mentioned, having to do without their center fielder, John Spikerman. Scott Mudler, the catcher, making start number 16 behind home plate, and Jason Walk, start number 11, is in center field for OU. Camden Johnson, I beg your pardon, leading off for Wichita State. He missed the final game of that Rice series, game won by Wichita State 15-3. Back in there tonight and takes a strike down around the knees. Johnson, the Shockers' leading hitter as a freshman, 367. And a little comebacker. Should be easy for Stevens, and he guns to first to take care of Camden Johnson. So 1 down and Shocker first. And that'll bring up Davin Johnson. Davin, a .472 hitter against left-hand pitching this year. He's in his first year in the Shocker program. Overall, second leading hitter behind Camden Johnson. He's hitting .347 with 4 homers and 19 driven in. Johnson has a team-high 10 doubles and a team-best 4 stolen bases. Crowder College product. Half swing, too far. No balls and 2 strikes. Grant Stevens, in his last time out there, 6 scoreless innings against ORU. Gave up only 2 hits. Struck out 4. Sooners won that game 10-0. He has made 2 starts prior to tonight, all the way back on February the 20th against Dallas Baptist. Got a no decision in 4 innings. And then a week ago against ORU, that's his other start. He's been OU's long man in relief. He actually went 2 2/3 against Wichita State and was the winning pitcher in relief against the Shockers back on March the 5th. Davin Johnson thought that was ball 4. So all in all, Grant Stevens off to a good start this year. 4-0 with a .363 ERA. Chopped off of the foot of Johnson and squirts foul. Davin Johnson this past weekend against Rice hit safely in all 3 games of the series. A Shocker sweep. And he swings and foul tips into the catcher's glove. Strikeout number 1 for Grant Stevens. Out number 2 in the Shocker first. Grant Stevens, for the most part, not a big strikeout guy. That first start he had against DBU, he had 5 strikeouts. That's season best. Jordan Rogers also hit safely in every game of the Rice series. He went 4 out of 9 officially. He walked once and was hit 3 times. Actually, he was hit 4 times, beg your pardon. So Wichita State team is not afraid to take one for the team, really to a man. They got 3 players that have already been hit double-digit times and 68 hit by pitches already this year. Rogers picked on a pitch inside, in on him, and fouled it back. So Grant Stevens looking for a 1-2-3 first inning after Daniel Zhang had to pitch around some trouble in the top of the first. And Stevens does just that. He punches out Rogers. 2 strikeouts in the first for Grant Stevens.
The Vanderkoys control the city. They killed my family. So, our mission is simple. Make them pay for what they have done. Boy Kills World, rated R.
Umpires for tonight's game. Wichita State will be back in action tomorrow night as Kansas comes to town. So, Big 12 invasion in the midweek. First things first, Oklahoma on its way out the door to the SEC. We'll start it with Jackson Nicholas, second baseman. Nicholas, Pettis, and Muddler. Man, look out. Speaking of Josh Shepis, help us out over there, Josh. Jackson Nicholas is working on a 3-game home run streak. Homered in every game of the Lamar series. So a week ago, Jackson Nicholas had 2 home runs. He got 5 right now with 15 runs batted in. Takes a fastball outside. It's 2 balls and 1 strike. Nicholas grew up around here, went to Overland Park when he was in high school, graduated from Blue Valley. Takes a strike, 2-2. Zhang almost got strike 3 past Nicholas. Cued one off the end of the bat. A little bit inside, just between the plate and the chalk of the batter's box. Didn't miss by much. 3-2. Nicholas, second leading hitter on the team, but with Spikerman out, he's the de facto best threat for OU. He's only 1 percentage point behind John Spikerman when it comes to batting average. 393. On base percentage over 500, 518. You pitch in the 20 walks in addition to the 35 hits that he has. And Zhang coming right at him on 3 balls and 2 strikes. This figures to be a really good test for Daniel Zhang. Again, trying to work on some command issues against a very patient Oklahoma hitting team. And right on cue, the 3rd walk drawn by OU hitters tonight. And Nicholas leads off the 2nd with a base on balls. That'll bring up Kendall Pettis. Just about everybody on this OU roster will run and try to steal a base at some point. Nicholas, modest success so far, 4 out of 6. Kendall Pettis comes into this one hitting .263. Pettis went 2 out of 11 against Lamar last weekend. Takes a tight strike, 0-1. Mentioned right at the top, Oklahoma loves to run. They have 45 stolen bases so far this year. That's the third year in a row they have run like crazy. And there goes Nicholas down to second base, and he steals that one with relative ease. That throw got into shallow center field, but like Jordan Rogers was there to back it up. So a stolen base by Nicholas, his fifth. And 2 years ago, they nabbed 145 stolen bases. So that was a pretty obscene number of stolen bases over the last 2+ years for OU. In 2022, that 145 steals was the most since 1989, when the Sooners in 89 stole 168. That was also back when you could play as many games as you wanted to. So Oklahoma 2 years ago stealing 145, even more impressive with the games restriction now. And Anthony Claggett wants to go out and talk to Daniel Zhang, who's had a little bit of trouble settling in here for the Shockers to begin this game. Zhang started the season in the weekend rotation and just recently has been kind of nudged out of that role. Made his last consecutive start, you could say, against Long Beach State back on March the 9th. But that was a game in which he hit 3 guys in the very first inning. And eventually made his way through 5 innings against the Dirtbags, but gave up 5 runs, 2 walks, 3 hit batters. He's had a real tough time harnessing his command ever since. And he hits Pettis. So a hit batter, a stolen base, or a walk, a stolen base, and a hit batter. And that really is starting to set the table now for OU. 2 on, nobody out. Alex Burge out in front of home plate, signaling to the Shocker corner infielders what Wichita State will do here in case there's a bunt. And instead, that was a stall tactic, and that's going to do it for Daniel Zhang. So second trip of the inning, and Daniel Zhang is only allowed to go 1 plus 2 batters. Didn't give up any hits, but he walked 3 and hit a batter. And he's going to give way. We'll tell you about the new Shocker hurler when we come back. He actually made his first start of the year back on March the 5th in Norman against Oklahoma. Pitched into the 4th inning. Gave up 3 hits and 1 earned run against the Sooners in that 5-3 OU win. Since then, Dobbs has bounced between starting and relieving, depending on what time of the week it is. On the weekends, he has been pitching in relief and making midweek starts to stay sharp in between. He's had a 5-inning start against Nebraska, 5 1/3 against Kansas State, 6 1/3 against Oklahoma State in starts, and anywhere between an inning and a third and 2 1/3 in relief over the last 3 weeks or so. He appeared in the Sunday game against Rice, finished the game with 2/3 of an inning in that 15-3 run rule Shocker win. So Daniel Zhang goes 1, walked 3, hit a batter, and he's responsible for Pettis and Nicholas out there on the base paths. So Dobbs inherits a 2-on, no-out situation. Dobbs, on the other hand, has not had much trouble with his command this year as a freshman. Only 11 walks in 32 innings. And he quickly jumps ahead of Scott Mudler, 0-2. And that one bounces off the glove of Burge, and it's going to be a pass ball, and both runners will move up. So there goes Wichita State's chance at a potential double play, or at least a conventional one. Tyler Dobbs, a week ago tonight against Oklahoma State, took a no-hitter into the 7th inning, a game at which he eventually gave up 2 runs in 6 1/3. And that one inside. So 4 free passes handed out by Daniel Zhang, and Tyler Dobbs is really going to have to walk the tightrope if OU is going to remain scoreless here. Little flare to shallow right center field. Long run for everybody. Davin Johnson runs it down, and no advance. Jackson Nicholas decided to stay put at third base, so 1 out on a good running catch by Davin Johnson. That'll bring up Jackson Willits. Willits comes into this one at 174 on 12 out of 69. Shocker, corners have come creeping in. The middle infielders staying back. Safety squeeze was on, and Willits takes outside. No home runs, 5 runs batted in for Jackson Willits. Willits, son of the assistant coach, Reggie Willits, who is an OU alum. Dakota Harris, last year's shortstop, drafted and went professional, so Jackson Willits gets the baton at short, swings and fouls it back. Had a good cut, but is down in the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Tyler Dobbs on in relief of Daniel Zhang here in the 2nd inning. And a liner into right field's going to drop for a base hit. Willits brings in 1. They're going to hold up the other runner at 3rd. And the leadoff walk comes around to score as Nicholas makes it 1-0 Oklahoma on Jackson Willits' 6th run batted in of the year. Charge that run to Daniel Zhang. Tyler Dobbs in there now. Walk was a strikeout victim back in the 1st. 1 of 2 in the 1st by Daniel Zhang. And this is right where Oklahoma wants you. Runners on, scoring early in the game, putting pressure on the opposing defense. Safety squeeze was on, and that trickles foul. This is the epitome of small ball. Skip Johnson. It's on again. The bunt is down. The only play is going to be to first. So 1-3, the sacrifice works. Walk, bunts in another run, and it's 2-0. As Kendall Pettis scores and Jackson Willis goes to second base. This is a style of play, and it's also got its own hashtag. Being aggressive on offense and putting pressure on the defense. Bryce Madron walked his first time up there. We told you about the tough matchup that it would be for Daniel Zhang facing Oklahoma. Oklahoma was 19th in the country in steals last year with those 114. 26th in steals per game, but also 11th in the country in walks. So if you didn't throw it over the plate, Oklahoma was going to give you a tough time. They also were hit by a pitch 74 times. They haven't bunted as much this year. I do have 6 sacrifice bunts now, if you include Jason walks. On the ground to Rogers, and the throw to first is in time, but Oklahoma plays small ball. They get 2 free passes and cash them both in. Derek Williams, a team-leading 7 home runs for Wichita State. He's knocked in 23. And he takes a strike in there, so for all Wichita State's issues with throwing the ball over the plate, Grant Stevens has had none of those. Come out pumping strikes. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Derek Williams. Williams working on a 5-game hitting streak. This one's out of play. Against Rice this past weekend, he was 4 for 6. Couple of walks and 4 hit by pitches mixed in there. This one's chopped on the ground to McKenzie, and the long peg across is in time. So 4 up and 4 down for Wichita State. And then I'll bring up Jaden Gustafson. Gustafson, the DH tonight. He played in right field in 2 of the 3 games against Rice over the weekend. Had a 4-hit game on Saturday, or on Friday, I should say. It's the 3rd 4-hit game that Gustafson has had this year. And this one's in the right center field. It's going to settle in for a knock. Gustafson with a 1-out single. And now up comes Mauricio Millan. So Gustafson over there at first base has had a pretty good year against Southpaws. We told you about Davin Johnson hitting .472. Gustafson, a very respectable .275 against lefties so far this year. And here's Mauricio Millan. Millan played first base twice this weekend. Bracketed around the Friday game in which he caught. He was 5 for 9 at the plate against Rice. And he jerks this one down the left field line, but it's hooking and foul. 0-2 to Mauricio Millan. Millan working on a 6-game hitting streak. And in that 6-game span, Mauricio has driven in 9 runs. He will have to hit on Grant Stevens' terms for a pitch or two here, though. It's down in the count 0-2. So Grant Stevens doing exactly what his coaching staff is looking for out of him, especially after OU just scored 2 in the top of the inning. He's come out filling up the strike zone, putting the pressure on the Wichita State hitters. That one bounces in there and blocked by Mudler, the catcher. Mian in his second year in the program hit .315 a year ago, 54 starts. There's only one game that Mian did not appear in. Driven well into center field, playing shallow was Walk, and he runs it down as Mian drove that one into the teeth of a north wind that was knocking it down a little bit. Walk had a long run to make, and he had a really good break on that ball off the bat of Mian, out number 2. And you understand why Walk's playing shallow in center field with that brisk north breeze blowing everything over toward right center field and in just a little bit. Now here's Lane Hayworth. Hayworth getting his 3rd start of the year. He's 4 for 13 at the plate. A couple of doubles and 4 runs scored. Snap throw down to first, and Gustafson goes diving back safely. Hayworth played in one of the 3 games in the Rice series, went 1 out of 4. He started the Thursday game. Takes a strike in there. It's 1-2. Hayworth, freshman from Louisville, Texas. Teammates with Tyler Dobbs in high school. Talked about how often Oklahoma runs and how much they like to run. 45 steals coming into this one tonight. Wichita State, not as much. They only have 17 steals on the year. Hayworth has worked the count to 3 balls and 2 strikes. So Gustafson over at first will have a couple of extra steps once he determines Grant Stevens is going to home plate. And now first baseman Snyder is going to play behind him. And Hayworth, a high fly ball toward the right field line, and out there to run it down is Jackson Nicholas with a good drop step. So the Wichita State wastes a 1-out single in the second. OU playing one of the brand new teams to the Big 12 here in a couple of weeks. They'll go to Provo, take on BYU. And then they will host Wichita State for the final time here in a few weeks down in Norman. Bedlam looms first, though, for OU after this game. A new pitcher for Wichita State, the 3rd of the game so far, and it's right-handed freshman Ryan Garrity. Garrity up here in his 5 innings in relief so far in his first year at Wichita State. Pitched in the UAB series couple of weekends ago, had a scoreless inning in the 9-1 win that the Shockers had 2 weeks ago Saturday. There's only been one time this year that Garrity has gone more than one full inning in relief. We'll see what Anthony Claggett and Brian Green want from Garrity here tonight. And you would assume, this is always dangerous, but you would assume that Garrity, is, if he is effective, would be left out there to go more than one inning. And big reason why is Wichita State has another game tomorrow against Kansas. And their starter tonight, Daniel Zhang, only went one. But we will see. And it all depends on how effective Garrity is in the strike zone, too. Because this is an uber-patient OU team, and it's the heart of the order here in the third. Easton Carmichael will start it off. He grounded to short his first time up. Ryan Garrity, freshman from Mundelein, Illinois. A little too far inside, and we are underway here in the third. Oklahoma got a couple of gifts in the second and brought them both in. A walk and a hit batter. The only hit of the game came from Jackson Willits, the OU shortstop. He singled in Pettis with the second of 2 runs. Tyler Dobbs ends up going 1 inning, gave up 1 hit, nothing else. A little bit outside, 2 balls and a strike, and really the recipe for a good baseball game certainly starts on the mound and starts with your guy throwing strikes, but it is ultra paramount against Oklahoma. You have got to do that, or you'll be out there all day and night long. This one's into the right field corner and twisting out a play thanks to the north wind blowing that one away from Hayward, the right fielder. So Easton Carmichael kind of picked on that right field corner, and the conditions almost helped him out and gave him his 3rd home run. You hit one high in the air to the right side of the diamond tonight, it'll be an adventure. At least until that wind dies down, if it ever will. 2-2 to Carmichael. And Ryan Garrity missed a little bit low, and it's 3 balls and 2 strikes. And we have seen a bunch of full counts. There's Old Glory getting whipped around by that north wind. It's been blowing pretty much all day. The payoff coming from Garrity to Carmichael. And he lost him ball 4. So Wichita State's pitchers, 2 of the 3 anyway, have handed out a free pass of some sort. And that's 3 straight innings that OU's had a walk. And now Anthony McKenzie. And this one gets through Burge, and that might end up being his second pass ball, and it will. So a really uneven start for Wichita State on the mound / defensively. And again, not to belabor the point, but if OU has a chance to put you on your heels, they will certainly rock you back there. That's a strike in there, 1-1. Told you about the ridiculous number of stolen bases they had back in 2022. Well, that was their College World Series team. So, no surprise, they stole their way to a trip to Omaha. That one's deadened pretty well, and Birds has got to hurry and threw that one kind of into the runner. So the sacrifice goes 2-4. And down to third goes Easton Carmichael. And I think at this point, Wichita State, and now Michael Snyder with an infield for Wichita State that has decided to come in. Snyder struck out looking his first time up there, went down on strikes to end the first against Daniel Zhang. Oklahoma out in front and threatening for more here in the third. That one's in too tight to Snyder, 1-1. That 2022 Oklahoma team finished 45-24, their most wins since 2010. And a screamer right at the shortstop. They're going to come home, and out at the plate is Cam Durnan gunned down Carmichael, who was off on the contact play. So Snyder hits into some tough luck right there. Just a BB right at Durnan, who comes home for Jackson Nicholas. And Nicholas, one of those guys that helped OU to the College World Series and their postseason run, which was exclusively away from home. Made it all the way to the College World Series, having to go on the road to do it. OU back in 2022 won the Big 12 championship in Arlington, won the Gainesville Regional, and then the Blacksburg Super Regional, and then went 3-0 on bracket play to reach the College World Series finals. That one a lot closer at first that time, getting Snyder to scramble back. First pitch one of these days is going to come to Jackson Nicholas. And I think that was a penalty ball one on Ryan Garrity. One and one to Jackson Nicholas. It wasn't a total smooth sailing trip to the College World Series for Skip Johnson and OU. There was a time back in 2022 where they were 18-12. So not too far away from where they are right now. And then they went on a torrid run through the Big 12 and through the Big 12 tournament and beyond. They won their final 6 regular season series. Another close play at first. Mauricio Millan there for a split second. I thought he had Snyder. Garrity trying to work out of a situation where he walked the leadoff man, Easton Carmichael. He made it all the way around to third base, but then was thrown out at the plate on a ground ball with the shocker infield in. Snyder not going, and Nicholas fouls it back. Still 2-2 to Jackson Nicholas. Garrity another throw over, and Snyder's got a lead that is about as big as he can get without getting picked off. In baseball parlance, that is a one-way lead, although nobody from OU really has a one-way lead. They're all threats. And that's outside, 3-2. So yet another full count issued by a shocker pitcher. And for those of a certain age around here, and around here I mean Wichita and Wichita State fans, this approach by OU might remind some of Oklahoma State's approach back in the 80s and 90s. And that's a little bit upstairs and another walk, and that is to say that Oklahoma State back then and Oklahoma now are more than happy to let you hang yourself if you're going to do it. Oklahoma State would play marathon games back in the 80s and 90s under Gary Ward. You didn't throw them a strike, they wouldn't help you out. And Oklahoma's a lot like that now. In there for a called strike to Kendall Pettis, who was hit by a pitch and scored a run his first time up there. And it's into right field for a base hit. Here comes Snyder around third. They're going to wave him in. He's going to score without a play as the ball goes to the middle of the diamond. And Kendall Pettis makes it a 3-0 Oklahoma lead here in the third. Nicholas goes from first to third. And OU continues to make Wichita State pay. Scott Mudler flied out to center field his first time up there. And for Oklahoma, this game has started exactly the way they've wanted it to. Meanwhile, Wichita State is desperate to change the tenor of this one immediately before this one gets out of hand. One ball and one strike to the OU catcher. And another thing that Oklahoma has in its favor is this is the only midweek game that they've got to negotiate. So they don't have to worry about using pitchers tomorrow or saving anyone for tomorrow necessarily. There is no game for them tomorrow. Wichita State can't say that. And Garrity misses 2 balls and a strike. So Zhang went 1+, walked 3 and hit a batter. Dobbs went 1. And Garrity is kind of limping through his inning here in the third. He's walked 2 and allowed a base hit. And that one's jerked foul down the right side and just beyond the concourse walkway. Down into the outfield hill section. There you see some youngsters sliding down the berm looking for a souvenir. Two-two pitch coming. Eventually. Yes, Kendall Pettis will run too. He's got 5 stolen bases. Just a little bit off the plate. 3 balls and 2 strikes yet again. And ball 4, 3 walks in the inning, and now they are loaded up for Jackson Willits. Willits brought in a run with a single to right field his first time up there. A left-hander loosening in the Shocker bullpen. But it looks like it's Ryan Garrity's game for one more hitter. Willits, switch hitter, turns around and bats left-handed after hitting right-handed against Dobbs. And takes outside, ball 1. Oklahoma has seen a lot of pitches through the first third of this game. Anthony Claggett with a long, slow walk out to the mound on 2-0 to Jackson Willits with the bases full of Sooners. And he's going to go to the bullpen. So mid at bat, Ryan Garrity will be lifted with a 2-0 count and the bases loaded in a 3-0 Sooner lead. He's been out there. He came out of his last outing against Kansas State back on March the 19th without registering an out. He left mid at bat with some arm discomfort, but luckily for him, it wasn't serious enough to shelve him for the season. Problem here, though, is he comes into a game where the bases are loaded and there's a 2-0 count that he's inherited to Jackson Willits. Iverson appearing for the 9th time, but again for the first time since March the 19th. Still early in the game, but certainly has a feeling like OU has Wichita State teetering on the brink of disaster with the way that Zhang, Dobbs, and Garrity have kind of set the tone here tonight, and that is to say that they haven't been able to command the strike zone. And Oklahoma, through their first 3 plate appearances, have 7 free passes already. 6 walks and a hit batter. So Willits turns around yet again to bat from the right side. He's got a 2-0 count. Nicholas, Pettis, Mudler, the base runners. Iverson, by the way, in his 5 innings of work this year, has walked 6. And that's too high, ball 4. That will be a walk issued to Garrity, who started the at-bat with 2 balls to Willits. So Willits walks, but it's saddled to Ryan Garrity. And the run, of course, charged to Garrity too. So now it's 4-0 and back to the top of the order again. Walk takes a strike. Walk, ironically, hasn't walked yet. He has struck out and laid down a sacrifice bunt. And that nips the outside corner, 0-2. Four walks, a bunt, and an RBI hit by Kendall Pettis here in the Sooner third inning. Strike 3, and the inning is over. Walk went too far, wasn't convinced that he did it, but Oklahoma sends 8 to the plate and tacks on 2 more. He asks Grant Stevens to get through 2 innings, and he was very good in his 2 innings of work. Give up just 1 hit, struck out 2. And Will Karsten, a lot like Daniel Zhang, trying to iron some stuff out. He has found the going pretty tough this year, except against Wichita State. Back on March the 5th, he made one of his 2 starts this year and went 3 scoreless against the Shockers. Gave up only 1 hit. That is the only scoreless outing that he's had this year. He has twice pitched against DBU. Gave up a total of 5 runs in 2 2/3. Gave up 3 runs against Wright State. Gave up 7 runs in a third of an inning against Oklahoma State. But spotted a 4-0 lead here tonight. And Alex Burge takes a little too high, fastball at 92. Will Karsten, big guy, 6'7", 225. Pours that one in there for a strike. On the year altogether, Karsten 8 innings, 14 hits, including 3 home runs. But Wichita State was unable to do anything with him back on the 5th. Burge, Durnan, and Camden Johnson for the Shockers here in the 3rd. Two balls and two strikes to the Shocker catcher. Fouled off with the very edge of the front of his foot. Burge went 1 out of 7 in the Rice series. Caught 2 of the 3 games. Went 1 out of 3 with a run scored on Saturday. And a little flare into shallow left field on the long run. A running catch by Pettis, who's playing semi-shallow anyway. So Pettis got a good read on that ball, and Karsten takes care of Alex Burge to start the Shocker 3rd. That'll bring up Cam Durnan. Durnan, the 9th place hitter for Wichita State tonight. Takes well outside. 1 ball and no strikes. Durnan comes in at 182. 10 hits, 2 of them home runs. And that one missed. 2-0. Durnan, a true freshman, has seemed to grab a hold of the starting shortstop spot. And he spanks one back through the middle for a base hit. So Cam Durnan with a 1-out base hit. And his 17th start of the year. Racks up Wichita State's 2nd hit of the night. And back to the top of the order, and Camden Johnson. Johnson hit a comebacker his first time up there. Karsten's last time out was on March the 19th, went 2/3 of an inning against DBU. Gave up 2 hits, walked 2, and 3 runs in a 6-0 loss against the Patriots. DBU, if you haven't been keeping track, is a top 10 team now that they've moved on to Conference USA. And kind of a feeble swing by Camden Johnson, and it's no balls and 2 strikes. Snap throw behind the runner at first, and just diving back safely was Durnan. And boy, if you're a base runner at first in a game like this and you are wearing the black of Wichita State, you better make sure you don't get picked off over there. This has been an uphill climb from the very beginning for Wichita State to begin with. They can't be getting anybody thrown out on the bases, that's for sure. A major league pop-up into right field and a long run, and Madron makes the catch, calling off Jackson Nicholas. So 2 down for Davin Johnson. Mentioned this last half inning that Wichita State just desperate, absolutely desperate to change the tenor of this game. Really, none of their plate appearances have been much to write home about. And when they've been on defense, Shocker pitchers have lived behind in the count. And this, I'm sure if you're a Shocker fan, feels a lot worse than 4-0. Davin Johnson trying to change all that with a runner on and 2 outs here in the 3rd. And a swing, a little dribbler foul, and it snowballs and 2 strikes. Johnson was a strikeout victim of Grant Stevens his first time. And hit sharply and past Nicholas. Going to his right, tried to backhand it. Going from first to third is Cam Durnan on a base hit by Davin Johnson. So the inning continues. And that'll bring up Jordan Rogers. Davin Johnson with a seeing out. And now Rogers, a strikeout victim, his first time up there. Facing Will Karsten for the first time. Hit like a bullet, but foul, and Rogers couldn't quite wait back long enough. Keep that one in fair territory. Jordan Rogers in the middle of a big-time bounce-back season. Didn't get consistent playing time last year and couldn't buy a hit when he did. But this year, 337 coming into this one. Already a career best 5 home runs, a career best 23 runs batted in. Two balls and a strike as Mudler smothered that one. 2 years ago, Rogers, a very good 307 batting average in 140 at-bats, knocked in 21, but only hit 1 home run. This year, already 5 home runs and 89 at-bats. And that one boxed by the catcher, and a run's going to come home to score. So the third pass ball of the night, the first one by Mudler, allows Durnan to score and Davin Johnson to go down to second base. So a couple of singles and 3-1 with a runner in scoring position. So Wichita State breaks the ice here in the third, a little bit of help. That one's cranked to left field and well hit. Back goes Pettis. He is on the front of the warning track and makes the catch. So that real brisk north wind helped keep this one a 4-1 game as we go to the fourth. The heart of the Oklahoma order, 2, 3, and 4. Wichita State getting an unearned run in the bottom of the third inning to get on the board. OU 2 runs in the second, 2 runs in the third. Madron 0 for 1 with a walk. And he takes outside, 1 ball and no strikes. Zhang, Dobbs, Garrity, and now Iverson for Wichita State. OU has elected to chop it up a little bit. Their starter only went 2 innings, but that was by choice, not by necessity, as was the case with Wichita State. Madron walked against Daniel Zhang and then grounded out against Tyler Dobbs. Missed Ryan Garrity's 2/3 of an inning altogether. Into center field's going to carry out to Davin Johnson for out number 1. So Bryce Madron flies to center field, and that'll bring up Easton Carmichael. Carmichael is grounded out and walked. Everybody except for Jason Walk has reached base safely so far for Oklahoma. Tells you what kind of a game it's been for Wichita State when they've been out on defense. They've been on roller skates, trying to keep track of these Oklahoma base runners. Zhang walked 2 in the first, 1 in the second before he left. Garrity was charged with 4 walks in his 2/3 of an inning. But amazingly, only 2 of those scored. Two and 1 to Carmichael. Off the end of the bat, right to Mauricio Millon. So that play goes 3 unassisted. And for only the second time tonight, back-to-back Oklahoma hitters have been retired. Back in the second, Walk laid down a safety squeeze, and then Madron grounded out. It's the only other time that Shocker pitching has set down 2 in a row. Anthony McKenzie takes a strike. No official plate appearances for him so far. A walk and a sacrifice bunt. No balls and 2 strikes to the OU third baseman. Iverson bidding for a 1-2-3 inning. And Burge couldn't quite squeeze it. Otherwise, he would have had it. Still 0-2. Oh, and 2 again. And a mistake, but on a night like tonight, Iverson gladly will give up a long fly ball to left. In a 1-2-3 inning, ends the fourth for the Sooners. their place. Been 7 different pitchers out there so far. James Hitt has appeared in 7 games, and he's gotten 5 decisions already. He is 2-3. You see the ERA of 8.1. Hitt was the losing pitcher back on the 28th against Lamar. Gave up 3 runs in a third of an inning. He has started in Big 12 action. UCF got a win. Got a win against TCU going into the 6th inning against the Horned Frogs. Lost against West Virginia, though. Gave up 6 runs in only an inning of work, including 4 home runs. James Hitt, in 23 innings this year, has given up 8 long balls. Williams will greet him here in the bottom of the 4th. And we are underway. Will Karsten, 1 inning, 2 hits, 1 unearned run. Run scored on a pass ball. Williams, Gustafson, and Mian for the Shockers here in the 4th. That one's rifled down the right field line, foul, and skips out of here. It would appear from here on out, it'll be a parade of relievers until this one's over. One ball and 2 strikes to Derek Williams, who grounded to third his first time up there. And a swinging strikeout for James Hitt. Hitt looking for a get-right game, no doubt about it, as he only went 24 pitches in that game against Lamar, where he gave up 2 hits, walked a man, hit a man in that 12-10 loss. But a good start to the 4th inning here tonight. Jaden Gustafson due up next. Gustafson with one of the Shockers' hits tonight. And tried to bunt his way on, and that one grabbed, I think, the inside of the right thigh of the catcher Mudler, and he's going to try to walk it off a little bit as he gets a little bit of help from Casey Mosier, the home plate umpire, who walks the ball out there to the pitcher Hitt. No balls and 2 strikes to Gustafson, who had a 1-out single in the 2nd. Fastball at 90 miles an hour, sails outside, 1-2. Oklahoma got 2 in the 2nd and 2 in the 3rd. Shockers' lone run came in the bottom of the 3rd. And Gustafson waves and misses at a slider outside, and James Hitt made him look bad. Back-to-back strikeouts for James Hitt here in the 4th inning. Mauricio Mian hit it a long way to center field his first time up, but Walk, the center fielder, ran it down. So Hitt, like Iverson, in search of a 1-2-3 inning. This is a bullet into the gap in right center field, but Walk with a sliding catch, and that'll end the inning. What a great read and break by The center fielder walked for the Sooners to rob Mian of a hit here in the fourth. His second one came this past weekend. On Saturday, he got one out. He was the only man he was called upon to face through 3 pitches. And got the one out in a 15-3 Shocker win. Prior to that, a March 12th scoreless inning against Nebraska. So Arnett, another in a long line of freshman pitchers for the Shockers tonight from Waco, Texas. Arnett will face Michael Snyder to start the Oklahoma 5th inning. 4 runs, 2 hits for Oklahoma. 1 run, 3 hits for Wichita State. Both of the Oklahoma hits have brought in runs, so they've been timely for Willits and Pettis. Snyder is 0 for 2. He has struck out and reached on a fielder's choice. Arnett, the 5th pitcher of the game for Wichita State. He's immediately ahead in the count, 0-2. Iverson goes an inning and a third. In essence, retired all 4 men that he faced. He encountered and inherited. So there's strike 3. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night to Michael Snyder. But Iverson inherited a 2-0 count to Jackson Willis, completed the walk, and then retired the next 4 that he faced. And Arnett takes care of Snyder here in the 5th. Now Jackson Nicholas, who is yet to be retired. And he takes a spinning strike in there, 0-1. Nicholas, 2 walks, 2 runs scored, stolen base mixed in there in the second. Again, Nicholas working on a 3-game home run streak. Out in front of that one, bounces it to Mian. It's going to go 3 unassisted. 2 up and 2 down in the OU 5th. Nicholas retired for the first time tonight. And now it's Kendall Pettis, who has not been retired yet. He's been hit and drove in a run with a base hit. For the first 3 innings, we would have done well to speed up the process by just putting a 3-2 count on the board against all the Oklahoma hitters. But since then, Iverson and to this point, Jeremiah Arnett has had a pretty good grasp of the strike zone. And Pettis, will be taking a strike. You figure he will anyway. And that's too low, 3-0. And Arnett delivers a 4-pitch walk to Pettis. So he is 1 for 1 with a hit batter and a walk now. And Mudler, the catcher, Mudler against Dobbs flied to center. And then against Ryan Garrett, he walked. So he's facing his 3rd different pitcher of the night. Arnett trying to work around that little 4-pitch glitch walk to Pettis, but as we just saw there, checking on Pettis over there at first. He'll run. 5 out of 7 in steals coming into the game today. It hasn't just been about Oklahoma stealing a bunch of bags this year. They have controlled the opposing running game pretty well, too. They have thrown out 14 of 39 would-be base stealers to try to steal against OU. And Mudler's thrown out 10 when he's been behind the plate. Camden Johnson runs out of room, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. So it's one thing to try to steal the other team blind, but if you can't stop the other guys from running, that's a whole other issue. But Oklahoma hasn't had too much problem with that. Mudler's been a really good catch and throw guy when he's been back there. And Easton Carmichael, who's DHing tonight, is the other OU catcher. And another throw to first. And that one got a little closer as Mauricio Mion kind of stumbled into the base runner Pettis trying to dive back safely. Oklahoma got an RBI from Jackson Willits in the second. A sacrifice safety squeeze bunt by Jason Walk. Runner goes, and we'll do it again. That made it 2-0 after 2. And then Oklahoma sent 8 to the plate in the third and probably felt like they should have gotten a few more. They had to settle for 2 on Pettis' RBI single. One and 2 to Mudler. Runner not going this time. This is a semi-pitch out. And the other run coming for Oklahoma in the third on a bases-loaded walk to Jackson Willits. 2 and 2 to Mudler here. Had him reaching a little ground ball to second, and Jeremiah Arnett hangs a 0 on the board here in the top of the 5th. Third of the Shocker order here in the bottom of the 5th. 4-1 Oklahoma. Shockers have out hit them 3-2. And the Sooners have stranded 7 on base through their first 5 at-bats. Hayworth popped out his first time up there, facing James Hitt for the first time. Oklahoma trying to bounce out of a little mini slump that's seen them lose 5 of their last 6. Hit sharply, but right at Nicholas, the second baseman, 1 away. Jackson Nicholas, rather. Aaron's his dad. Jackson Nicholas positioned perfectly for Lane Hayworth's hot ground ball. Alex Burge flied to left his first time up there. OU's kind of playing an uncharacteristic, uneven brand of baseball over the last couple of weeks, especially for them dating back to the College World Series run. They swept TCU in Fort Worth, but then lost at home, got shut out by Dallas Baptist, and then lost 2 out of 3 at home to West Virginia. There's a good bunt up along third, and a long throw, safe at first. Alex Burge beats out a bunt single. And that's got to feel good for Alex Burge, who registers only his 5th hit of the year. Bunts his way on. Second, they then lost the next 2 and then squashed Oral Roberts in the midweek. ORU's having a devil of a time of it this season after going to the College World Series last year. A little comebacker might be a double play. 1-4, and that's it. And Alex Burge slid into Nicholas to make sure he couldn't complete the double play. Nicholas bobbled it, getting the ball out of his glove. Yeah, and here's Camden Johnson. So anyway, after beating ORU 10-0 in the midweek a week ago today, Lamar came into Norman and swept the Sooners in 3 games. Before you sneeze at that, Lamar's in the midst of a really good year, and they've been getting votes in the top 25. But OU, any way you slice it, trying to put something together as they are in the teeth of the Big 12 season now. And they got Bedlam, as we talked to you and showed you a little bit earlier, against Oklahoma State this weekend, and then they get K-State at home after that. Lucky for them, though, they are off to a good start in the Big 12. That one's pounded into center field, but pretty much right at Walk, who is there to gather it in. And that's that for Wichita State in the 5th. Wichita State got a little something going here. Iverson went an inning and a third scoreless. Arnett put up a 0 in the 5th, worked around a 2-out walk. Willits, Walk, and Madron due up for the Sooners here in the 6th. I mentioned Oklahoma trying to kind of get off the schneid here after they've dropped 5 of their last 6. Wichita State's in a pretty good way right now with the way they've been playing. And that's in there for a strike. What both teams have in common, though, is both of them have gotten off to a good start in their respective conferences. Wichita State is 5-1 in the American after a sweep of Rice this past weekend. I mentioned it earlier, the Shockers got one more game this week. That's against Kansas tomorrow, and then they'll play at USF for games this weekend. Jackson Willits has singled and walked. He's knocked in 2 runs. RBIs 6 and 7 on the year. Arnett came right at him, and Willits was able to foul it back. Again, Willits comes into this season with some fanfare. Of course, his dad played here. And that breaking ball squirts out of the hand of Arnett. And Willits, Reggie, his dad, and his third season as a coach under Skip Johnson. Long run for everybody involved, and Rogers makes the catch. But Jordan Rogers has proven to be pretty adept at running a long way into the outfield for pop flies. Of course, he is experienced in playing the outfield more consistently at second base this year than at any time in his previous Shocker career. Here's Jason Walk. Walk has struck out twice and laid down a sacrifice bunt that brought in a run. OU with 2 in the second, 2 in the third. Shockers countered with 1 in the third. And at this point, Wichita State's paying the tab for not being able to consistently throw strikes the first third of this game. It's really what it's boiled down to. That one's hit well into center field. Johnson's going to have to play it on a hop. And after a big turn at first, Jason Walk will hang on right there. So a 1-out single for Walk. Walk with 7 stolen bases and 8 tries over there. So he is certainly going to be revved up and ready to go. And a pretty good combo to have up there at the plate in Bryce Madron. Hard to get one by him in the strike zone anyway. He has walked 0 for 2 otherwise. Now a needles the outside corner for a called strike. So Arnett, who is appearing for Wichita State for just the 3rd time this year, has done the job to this point. That one crowded Madron. Arnett trying to give Wichita State multiple innings on the mound for the first time tonight. Well, more than 4 outs, put it that way. Zhang started. He went 1. Dobbs came out of the pen for an inning of work before he gets ready to go next weekend. Garrity struggled through 2/3 of an inning. And then Iverson went 1 in the 3rd. Arnett, to this point, 1 in the 3rd. Lane Hayworth gathers that one in, so Madron with a little can of corn to right field. 2 down, and it's up to Easton Carmichael. And you got to wonder if Jason Walk, after Madron, the left-hand batter, was up there, will be off and running at some point during this plate appearance to Easton Carmichael. We'll wait and see. And Arnett mindful of that, checking on Walk. This is also, I mentioned, kind of been a tough time for Oklahoma, losing 5 of the last 6. They've had to do it without John Spikerman, their leading hitter. There goes Walk, and a good throw by Burge, and not held by Rogers, who was maybe even spiked on the play. He couldn't hang on to it, lost the ball, lost his glove, lost his shades off the top of his head. And that throw by Burge was a bullet and right on the money. But maybe more than anything else, just, and I guess the good thing about that is everybody's okay. But kind of a shame for Alex Burge, who threw a dart down to second base but didn't get rewarded. It was a really good job of unloading by Burge on a speedy base runner. But OU's got a runner in scoring position nonetheless for Carmichael. And he is behind in the count, 0-2. So Arnett has a chance to make it a moot point if he can put away Carmichael here. Easier said than done, though. Carmichael doesn't strike out an exorbitant amount. And just as I say that, Arnett climbs the ladder, strikes him out, and that's that. So 2 scoreless innings for Arnett for Wichita State. Hensley with some big strikeout numbers so far for OU. 15. There's the proof. He doesn't give him many hits either. Only 3. All of them have been singles. Appearing for the 10th time. No record with an ERA of 2.25. He's given up 2 earned runs in those 8 innings. He has walked 6, but 15 strikeouts is a good deodorant. 2, 3, and 4 in the shocker order. Davin Johnson takes a called strike. So Stevens went 2, Karsten 1, hit 2. And now Hensley here in the shocker half of the 5th. Reed Hensley pitched last weekend, albeit a third of an inning in that 12-10 loss against Lamar. He also went a scoreless inning in relief in that game against ORU, which happened to be started by Grant Stevens. Reed Hensley. We'll get Johnson, Rogers, and Williams in the shocker 6th. Two balls and 2 strikes to the shocker leadoff man in the inning, Davin Johnson. Squirts one on the ground to the left side, the only guy over there, and safe at first. So McKenzie not able to register the out. So leadoff man aboard. Davin Johnson has a 2-hit game. And here's Jordan Rogers. Rogers is struck out and flied to deep left. So Wichita State is kept hanging around after a rocky beginning. They've gotten a couple of strike throwers to come out of the bullpen. And here they are, still within shouting distance of Oklahoma as we enter the late stages of this one. A little inside-out swing, and Rogers kind of got beat with 91 on the knuckles right there. That one's cranked to left field and well hit. Pettis is back there, though, and down around the end of the bat just enough where that one didn't carry. And again, the north wind is not going to help anybody to hit a ball in that direction tonight. That's twice now that Rogers picked on left field and picked on Pettis. 1 out for Derek Williams. He is grounded out and struck out. You know, they say that old habits die hard, and I guess that's not necessarily apples to apples in this case, but it takes some getting used to if you're a baseball purist, not seeing the catcher put signals down anymore. That one's a little bit low and inside. Watch Mudler, the catcher, and then watch Hensley, the pitcher. There's not the signals anymore. It's all pitch comm or wristbands or some combination thereof. But there's just not a series of signs flashed by the catcher, either with nobody on or especially a guy on base, guy at second base. It used to be there was at least one trip to the mound per game to get on the same page as the catcher and pitcher. Three fairly close pitches, all going the way of Derek Williams here. Gustafson waiting next. Three and one. And ball four. Gets away from Mudler, but no matter. So 2 on for Gustafson now. And this has only happened one other time tonight, and that is Wichita State putting 2 runners aboard in the same inning. Had 2 on and 2 out in the third when Mudler committed a pass ball that allowed Durnan to score. So here's Gustafson, who's 1 out of 2. He is in the midst of the best offensive stretch of his season. He is 6 for his last 10 at the plate. And with a lefty down in the OU bullpen, that might usher Hensley out of this one. And it will. We got to call the bullpen, but Wichita State threatening with 2 on and 1 out in the 6th. For the second time, back on March the 5th, Minor had 2 strikeouts in that 5-3 win. Most recently, last weekend, Minor went 2 scoreless innings against Lamar. He was one of the few pitchers to get out of that series unscathed. Pitched 2 scoreless innings and a 6-3 loss against Lamar this past weekend. So Jace Minor appearing for the 10th time, all in relief, 1-1 with an ERA of 5.40. Gustafson has been announced, so that prompted the change from the right-hander Reed Hensley now to Minor. Davin Johnson with an infield single and Derek Williams with a 4-pitch walk. Jace Minor, shocker from a year ago, enters with Jaden Gustafson representing the tying run here in the bottom of the 6th. Jace Minor has gone as many as 2 innings on a couple of occasions, including last weekend against Lamar. But most of the time this year, he's just been a situational guy. And he's fallen behind Jaden Gustafson, 2 balls and no strikes. Minor has had some issues with his command this year, 6 walks in 8 1/3. And a kangaroo hop bouncing ball to short, and just in time to get to Gustafson at first base. Wasn't anything Willits could do except for wait for it to come down. And then he unloaded in a hurry. We'll see if Wichita State wants to challenge this. That ball, and it would appear that Wichita State will want to take a look at this one. Anthony Miller, the first base coach, along with Jaden Gustafson, the actual base runner, both said that they thought Gustafson legged this out. Take another look. And this is a point in the game. If it's going to be that close, you would think it's probably worth a try if you're Wichita State. Worst case scenario, it'll be runners at second and third with 2 down. And if the Shockers get the call, they would be loaded up with 1 out. Here's one more look. The umpires to look at. Here comes Casey Mosier with the verdict. And they're going to rule Gustafson safe. So a worthwhile challenge indeed for Wichita State. That will load them up with. So Mian up there with the bases loaded. He is 2 for 3 this year with the bases loaded. And he fouls it back, and it's 0-1. So if there's anybody that knows all about Jace Minor, it's Mauricio Mian, who caught virtually every inning for Wichita State last year. That one bounces in there, a changeup that Minor just kind of guided up there. Mudler was forced to go to both knees to block it. 1 ball and 1 strike. Reed Hensley started the inning, gave up an infield hit to Johnson, and then walked Williams. And then Minor has come into the fray and given up an infield hit to Gustafson. And a screaming ground ball. Looks like a 4, 6, and 3 double plays. Jace Minor works around a bases-loaded jam in the Wichita State 6th. Mauricio Mian wrapped into a 4-6-3 double play with the bases loaded in the previous half inning. Arnett so far, 2 scoreless innings. He has struck out 2, given up a hit and a walk. This is the last guy that Arnett hasn't faced. Anthony McKenzie. 0 for 1 officially tonight, and he went too far on that changeup. 0-1. Arnett, the 5th pitcher of the night for Wichita State. Oklahoma has now gone to 5 different pitchers this evening. And both bullpens have settled into a nice little battle here in late innings. Arnett trying to pitch McKenzie backwards a little bit here to begin in the 7th inning. Hunter Holmes starting to loosen for the Shockers. So McKenzie, Snyder, and then Nicholas. McKenzie and Snyder right-hand batters. Nicholas a lefty. Two balls and 2 strikes. And now we've gone from 0-2 to 3-2. McKenzie has walked, laid down a sacrifice bunt, and flied to left. And Arnett lost him after jumping ahead of him. No balls and 2 strikes. Second walk issued by Arnett. A leadoff walk in the 7th inning of a close game against Oklahoma is never ideal, especially when Oklahoma is the team that's out in front. Michael Snyder, in case you're wondering, has laid down 1 sacrifice bunt this year. Again, this is a team that lives by the stolen base, not necessarily by the sacrifice bunt. And that will not get the job done. 1 away. So a first pitch out against Michael Snyder, certainly welcomed by Jeremiah Arnett. And Jackson Nicholas being announced has prompted Anthony Claggett, pitching coach, to come out to visit the mound and presumably bring the hook with him. And he will. So we will have a call to the bullpen. 1 on, 1 out in the OU 7th. It's Hunter Holmes coming in next.
Being a kid with a physical difference.
And in case you're wondering, that is tied for the team lead now with Caleb Anderson, who's appeared 16 times out of the pen as well. Hunter Holmes, 1-1, no saves, covering those 11 innings. He's been called to get Jackson Nicholas here with 1 on and 1 out. Nicholas is grounded out and also walked twice. McKenzie started the inning by drawing a full count walk off of Jeremiah Arnett after Arnett got ahead of him 0-2. Overall, though, Arnett did a good job. 2 1/3 scoreless innings. He gave up only a Jason Walk single. 2 walks, 2 strikeouts for Arnett, who hands the baton to Hunter Holmes, junior from Corona, California. He got 4 outs in the 7-5 win on Thursday against Rice. Struck out 3. That was his highest strikeout total since opening weekend when he struck out 4 against Little Rock. So Holmes with 1 on and 1 out in a 4-1 Oklahoma lead. McKenzie, the runner at first base. Again, it sounds like a broken record. They'll all steal bases. But McKenzie, not one of the most accomplished of the guys that'll run. He's perfect, but he's only 3 for 3 so far this year. Holmes checking on him twice now. So far tonight, OU with 2 stolen bases. And Casey Mosier said Nicholas went too far. No balls and a strike. Nicholas with 1 of those stolen bases. That came back in the 2nd inning after he walked. And the other stolen base was by Jason Walk with 1 out in the 6th inning. He was stranded there. You can see why Holmes can be tough on lefties. Just kind of slings it in there from that lower three-quarter arm angle. And that one didn't quite chip off a piece of the outside corner. Holmes has permitted lefties to hit only .211 this year. And he's been really good with inherited runners on base. He's only allowing opponents to hit .185 with runners on base against him. Pulled the string nicely, 2 balls and 2 strikes. A little flare into shallow left center field, and Williams makes a running catch. So 2 down. And that'll bring up Kendall Pettis. And we'll see if Hunter Holmes is allowed to face him to try to finish off the 7th inning. Being mindful of Anthony McKenzie over there at first base. Again, a reminder, Wichita State's got another midweek game to play tomorrow night as Kansas comes to town. So they got not only to sew up this one, but you got to cover 9 innings tomorrow night too. Kendall Pettis has been hit by a pitch, knocked in a run with a single, and walked. Pettis came into the game hitting .263, but he's been on base all night. That one sweeps across the plate. No dice for Hunter Holmes. And Pettis didn't exactly come in a hot hitter, although he went 0 for 2 with 2 walks in the final game of the Lamar series. And that one bounced behind him, and Bird somehow flagged it. Kendall Pettis went 2 for 11. One of the 2 hits was a home run against Lamar. And lashed into right field past the diving Mian. Heading from first to third will be McKenzie. And he will make it. The throw went all the way to third base. So Kendall Pettis stays perfect tonight. And he keeps the OU inning going. Pettis hit that ball like a shot past the diving first baseman for Wichita State. Although a little bit of a trade-off if you're a Shocker fan that you might take, and that's a lefty-lefty matchup here with Holmes against Mudler. Maybe. Anthony Claggett out there to the mound on a jog. He's the one that makes all the mound trips for Wichita State, whether they are maintenance visits or to change pitchers. You won't see Brian Green go out there at all, or at least you haven't so far this year. You get the feeling this might be the ball game right here. Wichita State still with 3 opportunities left on offense, but Oklahoma can really position itself in the catbird seat with a big 2-out bit of damage by Mudler. The Shockers missed their biggest opportunity in the last half inning when Mauricio Millan hit into a 4-6-3 double play with the bases loaded. So it'll be Holmes against Mudler with 2 on and 2 out here in the OU 7th. Oklahoma has been out hit virtually all night, but they cashed in some charity in the second and the third innings. And Burge has kind of had a tough time behind the plate. Kept that one in front of him, but it missed 1 ball and no strikes. Mudler is 0 for 2 with a walk. And Holmes casts that one in there for a called strike. Mudler faced a lefty and Tyler Dobbs back in the second inning, flied to center field. A little flare to Davin Johnson. Runner goes, the pitch is a called strike, the throw down to third, and a good job by Camden Johnson to flag it and keep that one from going into left field. So second and third now. 1 and 2 the count to Mudler though. And strike 3 called up around the letters. He looked like he was looking for a breaking ball. Got the heater. And that's the inning. Stretch time here at the ballpark in Wichita. 10 Sooners have been stranded on the base paths tonight, but so far it's been good enough. Jace Miner maybe made the pitch of the night. And in the bottom of the 6th, with Wichita State batting and the bases loaded, Mauricio Millan hit a BB right at the second baseman, Jackson Nicholas, who started a 4-6-3 room service double play. Lane Hayworth will greet Miner here in the bottom of the 7th. Hayworth is 0 for 2. He has popped out and grounded out. Hayworth, Burge, and Durnan. 7, 8, 9 in the order for the Shockers here in the bottom of the 7th. Wichita State has out-hit Oklahoma 6-4. Problems occurred in the second and the third innings when Wichita State had a hard time locating home plate. Three of the 4 Oklahoma runs have scored tonight, courtesy of a free pass. Nicholas has twice walked and twice scored. Pettis has been hit and scored. And again, it could be worse. Oklahoma has stranded 10. And down goes Hayworth. That was a tough assignment for him. The freshman facing Jace Miner, a left-hander that slings it in there by way of first base. So 1 out, the Shocker 7th. And we got a pinch hitter in Gannon Snyder. So Snyder will pinch hit for Alex Burge. Burge ends up 1 out of 2. And Snyder likely will stay in the game to play first base, and that'll push Mauricio Millan behind the plate when that time comes. But we'll see. Gannon Snyder, 5 out of 21, couple of doubles. Snyder appeared twice in the Rice series, went 0 for 3. Fastball too tall, 2 balls and a strike. Minor came into the game with 2 on and 1 out in the 6th. Gave up a kangaroo hop infield single to Jaden Gustafson, but then it got a double play. And Snyder, a little swinging bunt. Minor fields it, throws to first way late, and Snyder legs it out. So Wichita State, a beneficiary of at least now Cam Durnan. Durnan 1 out of 2. And now that he has been announced, we'll see if Oklahoma goes to the bullpen. There is a right-hander loosening down there. Yeah, we're both ready. Who do you want? Well, we've got a decision. We'll tell you who that is when we come back. We got a pitching change with the Shockers with a base runner and 1 out here in the 7th. He appeared 3 1/3 innings in relief last weekend against Lamar. Gave up 4 hits and 3 runs, 2 of them home runs. He'll be facing Cam Durnan with 1 on and 1 out here in the 7th. Atwood, no record, no saves, 10th appearance. Cam Durnan 1 for 2 tonight, sitting 193 on the year. Scored the lone Shocker run to this point. And scored on a passed ball, uncorked by Will Karsten way back in the 3rd inning. It's 4-1. It's been that way since the 3rd inning. OU got 2 in the 2nd, 2 in the 3rd. And that one sails up and in. 1 ball and no strikes. Carson Atwood, native of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Durnan had a good cut. Guides it back to the screen. 1 ball and 1 strike. 4 runs, 4 hits, no errors for Oklahoma. 1 run, 7 hits, no errors for Wichita State. The difference has been Oklahoma's ability to throw strikes on the mound. Of the Oklahoma pitchers tonight, and there have been 6, they've only walked 1 and haven't hit any Shocker hitters yet. And that one's into right field for a base hit off the bat of Cam Durnan. Stopping at second will be Gannon Snyder. So Durnan with a 2-hit night, and that'll bring up Camden Johnson and Davin Johnson. Both, if they both get a chance to get up there, will be represent a right-hand pitcher. Cam Johnson 0 for 3. Flied out to the center fielder walk his last time. Cam Johnson entering the game tonight as consistent as you could possibly be. He was a .367 hitter against both righties and lefties. So it hasn't mattered much in his freshman season. It's in a big spot here. Not a home run hitter so far in his freshman season. Matter of fact, he hasn't hit any. But he came into the game leading Wichita State with 40 hits on the year. 0 for 3 tonight. And a slow roller to second. And out at first as Nicholas takes the out. Runners move up. And it'll be up to Daven Johnson. Daven Johnson, 2 for 3. Singles in each of his last 2 plate appearances. Interesting splits for Daven Johnson. We mentioned it earlier in the game. He's a 472 hitter against lefties, only 274 against righties, but he is a 346 hitter with runners on. So he has come up big in RBI situations more times than not. He's knocked in 19. Takes that one in the turf. He's a 344 hitter with runners in scoring position. So he's the guy you want up there if you're Wichita State. Took a big hack on a pitch down, 1 ball and 1 strike. Shockers haven't had a lot of base runners tonight, but they had them loaded in the 6th, and they've had a couple on here in the 7th. There you see the defensive alignment for OU, and a base open for Daven Johnson. If he should happen to reach, Jordan Rogers will be next. In there for a called strike. 2-2. And you get the feeling that Johnson was looking out over the plate there, and Atwood was able to sneak one over the inner third. Still 2-2. Boy, big spot in the game here. Carson Atwood, one of OU's better relievers, facing the teeth of the order with 2 outs here in the 7th. Atwood taking a little time before he climbs the hill. And we'll do it again. Still 2-2. One out singles from Snyder and Durnan here in the Shocker 7th. Three balls and 2 strikes. Neither team has really had much to write home about when it comes to runners in scoring position so far. And a swing and a miss, and down goes Johnson. And Atwood strands 2 more Shockers in scoring position in the 7th. Sorry that you want to lead the other team in, but Oklahoma has stranded 10. The Shockers have left 7 as we head to the 8th inning on a brisk but not terrible night for baseball. It was in the lower 50s at first pitch, and up until really recently, we've had a north wind to deal with, or the fans down there have anyway. Jackson Willits to lead it off for OU here in the 8th. Hunter Holmes got the final 2 outs of the 7th. He guides that one in there for a strike. Willits is 1 out of 2 with a walk so far tonight. Had a notion and held up. There you see Millan is behind home plate. So he's gone from first to catching, and Gannon Snyder, who pinch hit for Alex Bird, is now playing first base. And Mian trying to frame that just simply missed it. 2-2. Willett's RBI single, bases loaded walk, pop out to the second baseman. And now a base hit to left. So yet another base runner for Oklahoma. They've had the leadoff man aboard in each of the last 2 innings. And now Jason Walk at the stolen base. You got to think about a potential sacrifice bunt for Jason Walk, although he hadn't laid down any successful ones until tonight. He bunted back to the pitcher that brought in a run in the second. So we'll see what he's asked to do here with OU leading 4-1 and looking for more. Runner at first, nobody out here in the 8th. Walk has struck out twice and singled. And Holmes lobs one over to first. As Walk squared very early. Again, Walk has got center field duties for the time being with Spikerman being hurt. Takes a strike. Willits is 1 for 2 in the stolen base category. Again, Walk with the sacrifice bunt in the second. That was his first successful one of the year. And Holmes has wild pitched the runner down to second base. So Walk will not necessarily be asked to lay down a sacrifice bunt, although it's not out of the question to bunt him over to third. And he just stabbed at that one. Not much of an effort. 1 ball and 2 strikes. So this will be big for Hunter Holmes if he can get Jason Walk himself. Or at least get Walk to make an unproductive out. As Wichita State offensively running out of outs. They got to try to keep the score the way it is. And Holmes does. He gets Walk by himself. It's a hat trick for Jason Walk. 1 big out, but now Madron and Carmichael due up next. Madron more than holds his own against lefties this year, 286. He's murder against righties, nearly a 400 hitter against them. This is his first time facing Hunter Holmes. He walked against Zhang, grounded out against Dobbs. That's in there for a strike, 1-1. And then Iverson got him to fly to center. So he's faced a couple of different lefties so far tonight. Arnett got him to fly to right his last time up there. Three and one. We mentioned it earlier. Madron just simply does not swing at pitches out of the strike zone very often. Got a tremendous batting eye. That one clips the outside edge. 3-2. Shockers had to go to the bullpen very, very early here tonight. See if this one stays in play. Long run for Camden Johnson, and he runs out of room. Daniel Zhang, the starter, only went 1 inning plus 2 batters. And then Dobbs, Garrity, Iverson, Arnett, and Holmes have had to take over from there. And considering the number of pitchers for both teams, score more than respectable. Almost everybody's been sharp coming out of the pen. And that one hit Madron with the base open. So that brings a double play opportunity back into play for Wichita State. And it also could mean yet another pitcher, which would be the 7th. And it does. So Hunter Holmes is done after 1 full inning in relief. We got a pitching change here in the Oklahoma 8th. He's appearing for the 4th time this year. And as you see there, he's yet to be scored upon. 3 1/3 innings so far. 2 on and 1 out in the Oklahoma 8th. Single and a hit batter permitted by Hunter Holmes, who went 1 full inning in relief, gave up 2 hits, hit a batter, struck out 2. And Mason Munns, a Kingman, Kansas product by way of Cloud County, becomes the 7th pitcher of the night for Wichita State. Munns last worked on March the 17th when a scoreless inning against Gonzaga. He'll get Easton Carmichael here with 2 on and 1 out after Holmes hit Madron. Carmichael 0 for 3. He's grounded out twice, struck out, and he's also walked. This game has been 4-1 since the bottom of the 3rd inning. Not for lack of base runners, that's for sure. 2 more out there for OU here in the 8th. And Munns delivers low and in. Jeremiah Arnett lasted the longest for Wichita State tonight, 2 1/3. Everybody else, 1 inning or fewer. And Munns spins that one in there for a called strike, 1-1. Carmichael facing his 4th different pitcher. And that one wanders a little bit too far inside. 2-1 the count. Carmichael has twice grounded out. Munns would take one right here. And he's behind him, 3 balls and a strike with Anthony McKenzie due up next. McKenzie is a switch hitter, so Munns will not have the luxury, I guess, of having a righty-righty matchup after Carmichael, so he really wants to try to get him. And he lost him, ball 4. So Munns has loaded him up. He's got no margin for error for McKenzie here. McKenzie has walked twice. He's also flied to left and laid down a bunt. Iverson, Arnett, Holmes, and now Munns all have, or up until now anyway, jury's out on Munns, but that trio of Iverson, Arnett, and Holmes really did a good job at throwing strikes for the most part. Kept this game 4-1. A ball and a strike to Anthony McKenzie. And they're going to say that pitch hit him. And that's actually a catcher's balk. Let's take another look. I think Mauricio not allowed. So how about that? And a strike in there. See if we can sneak another peek. Wichita State's had to bring the infield in. Yeah, you can't touch it with the mask. That's a good call by Casey Moser. So everybody moves up 90 feet. Willett scores. And that's down and in. I thought maybe the pitch hit McKenzie in the foot, but if it had, he would have reacted immediately, and he didn't. Strike three called on the outside corner. A big out number 2 by Munns, but something you hardly ever see is a catcher touching the ball with part of their equipment to try to corral it and keep it closer to him. And I'm quite sure I've never seen Mion do that. So that's a balk on the catcher and E2. And Snyder takes a strike. So of all the ways to get an insurance run in, I don't know that Oklahoma or anybody else had that on their bingo card. And that one gets away from Mion, and another run's going to score. So this time on a wild pitch, a little more conventional. And now 2 huge runs here in the top of the 8th for Oklahoma after they have been living in frustration from the 4th inning until now as far as base runners are concerned. So a half inning to forget for Mauricio Mion, normally a really sure-handed catcher back there. Basically a mental mistake by him. And then on that recent wild pitch, tried to pick it instead of electing to slide over and try to block it. Two balls and 2 strikes. Count to Snyder. Wichita State in the bottom of the 8th will have 3, 4, and 5 due up. But they will be down at least 5 with Oklahoma closing in on another victory over the Shockers. Beat them 5-3 back on March the 5th in Norman. And Munns misses outside, 3-2. And that is into right field and down. Down toward the corner it goes as Snyder gets his first hit of the night. and is a 3-run 8th inning for Oklahoma. So Snyder took it to the opposite field, and it is now 7-1 OU. Anthony Claggett has really had to wear a path between the third base dugout and the mound tonight. And the Shockers are going to make yet another pitching change with 3 runs home here in the Oklahoma 8th.
So this is pickleball?
It's second weekend of the year against Auburn. Oswald through 2/3 of an inning. He becomes the 8th Shocker to pitch tonight. It's Mason Munns lasts a third of an inning, gave up a hit, a walk, a run so far, struck out 1. Gavin Oswald trying to stop the bleeding here in the 8th inning. Oklahoma has pushed across 3 more runs. And if you stepped away for just a moment and wonder why 4-1 turned into 7-1, it was the darndest thing. There was 2 on, both in scoring position. And with Anthony McKenzie at the plate, there was a ball on the turf that Mauricio Millan blocked and then tried to corral with his mask. And he touched the ball with his mask, and that's a catcher's balk. That allowed everybody to move up 90 feet and made 4-1, 5-1. And then a subsequent wild pitch and a double by Snyder has broken this one open. So Oswald will face Jackson Nicholas. Nicholas 0 for 2 with a couple of walks. He's scored 2 of the runs tonight. Oswald listed at 6'6" and 270. The one game that he pitched against Auburn down in Jacksonville, 2/3 of an inning, 3 walks, and he was charged with 4 runs against the Tigers in that 19-8 game that the Shockers lost in 7 innings. And this is a little bit of the collateral damage that you're going to get when starting pitcher only goes 1 inning and you've got 9 innings to cover tomorrow. We've seen some guys that haven't pitched much. Arnett, Munns, now Oswald. And it's 3 balls and 2 strikes. And again, with Oklahoma not having a game tomorrow, they've elected to kind of cut it up and give some guys some work after Grant Stevens only went 2 innings as their starter. And ball 4. Snyder in the process swipes third base. And now Kendall Pettis working on a perfect night tonight. 2 out of 2, the walk, and he's been hit by a pitch. 1 ball and no strikes on top of the total number of pitchers that Wichita State has run out there. We've also had to watch nearly 200 pitches be thrown by Shocker pitchers so far tonight. That's 191 right there. And to pick the first, now they got a OU in a rundown. They're going to be able to steal a run here. The run does score. Snyder down to second base. Not the best executed of rundowns, but Oklahoma, after the dust has settled, with 4 runs here in the 8th inning. We've been talking about this one. Wichita State still has one more midweek game before heading down to Tampa to take on USF. Try to improve on that 5-1 American Conference ledger. And then they'll play the downtown game at Riverfront Stadium against Oklahoma State on April 9th. You got another pitcher for Oklahoma, Ryan Lambert. He'll be appearing for the 10th time on the year. See his season numbers. So he takes over on the mound for Atwood, who got the last 2 innings, or got the last 2 outs, I should say, in the Shocker 7th. Oklahoma has broken this one open. Atwood goes 2/3 of an inning. No runs, 1 strikeout. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different pitchers for OU tonight. And they have given up but 1 unearned run. Only 1 walk. They haven't hit anybody. And Oklahoma's defense hasn't committed any errors. It is 8-1 Oklahoma as the Shockers come to bat here in the bottom of the 8th. Jordan Rogers 0 for 3. He's kind of hit into some tough luck. He hit 2 balls into the teeth of a north wind. They were both caught by the left fielder, and that one's golfed high and deep to left. But Pettis is back there and drifts under it to make the catch. So Rogers 3 times now has flied to left. He's 0 for 4 altogether. So 1 pitch and 1 out for Derek Williams, who's 0 for 2 with a walk. So Ryan Lambert gets 1 out with 1 pitch here in the bottom of the 8th. And he pours out with that one right down the middle. Fastball at 95. Strike 2 called, and Williams not so sure. Lambert pitched twice this past weekend against Lamar, covering 2 total innings. Gave up 1 hit, no runs. Threw that one at 100 miles an hour. So for those that stuck around, in the ballpark anyway, they got to see 100 on the stadium radar gun. So there's that. And that one at 98 blows away Williams. 2 down in the Shocker 8th. And I think we've only seen one other, especially in the modern era, where there actually is a radar gun on the Shocker scoreboard. It happened last year a couple of times. I forget the opponent, but Nate Snead did it for Wichita State. Saw multiple triple digits up there on that scoreboard. That one's grounded to second. And the throw to first in time. So Lambert, among his pitches, hits 100 miles an hour in a scoreless 8. Picked off Jackson Nicholas at first, but Nicholas stayed in the rundown long enough for a run to score to make it a 4-run OU 8th. That has broken this one wide open. Pettis has been hit, he's walked, and he's singled twice. 8 runs and only 6 hits for Oklahoma tonight. 1 run, 8 hits, and that error committed by Mauricio Millan, the only miscue of the night. That pick by Gavin Oswald, the only out that he technically recorded in the last half inning. Pettis, Mudler, and Willits, lower third of the Oklahoma order. That one grabs the inside corner, 3-2. So Kendall Pettis, who came in with kind of a nondescript 263 batting average, has been a thorn in the Shockers' side tonight. And he whistles one foul down the left field side. He and really Jackson Willis down at the bottom of the OU order. A couple of hits, a bases loaded walk. So the 7 and the 9 hole hitters have really been pests. Ground ball to third. Johnson has to wait for the hop, guns it across, and looky there. Kendall Pettis is human after all. So Oswald gets Pettis. Mudler has flied to center field. He's walked, grounded out, and struck out looking. Went down on strikes against Hunter Holmes his last time. Eight different Shocker pitchers tonight. And I can't say for certain that it was 8 different pitchers tonight, totally out of necessity, but it started out that way because Daniel Zhang was unable to throw strikes in his inning plus. And then they got an inning out of Tyler Dobbs and then got him out of there. He's likely to pitch again this weekend. But then Ryan Garrity came in and he had some troubles. Drew Iverson came in, calmed things down a little bit with his inning and a third. And then Jeremiah Arnett really did 2 1/3 scoreless innings. And this was a little squibber back to Oswald, and he takes too long to throw to first base, safe, as Mudler legs it out. It's just a little cue shot off the end of the bat, and the spin is really what threw Gavin Oswald for a loop. Right there, you could see it, lunge at it and stab at it, and didn't get a good grip on the ball, so Mudler is going to get credit for an infield hit. Now Jackson Willits. And after Arnett left for Wichita State, OU kind of went to work, I guess, in a way, against Hunter Holmes and then Mason Munns after that. 3-0. 11 walks issued by Shocker pitching tonight. And I don't want to quantify this or say how many times out of 10 that you'd beat Oklahoma walking them 11 times, but I would venture to say it's not very many. And unless something drastically changes, it's not going to happen tonight either. There's another base on balls. So 2 on and back to the top of the order in Jason Walk. And it looks like a very real possibility of our 9th Shocker pitcher will come to the stage. And that's going to happen. Another pitching change with 2 on in the Oklahoma 9th in an 8-1 game.
Get ready for
2 outs here in this one. Lukart has 10 at-bats as a position player, but asked to try to mop up here in the top of the 9th with 2 Sooners on and 1 out. So Braden Lukart making his first appearance as a pitcher for Wichita State. He spent time at Johnson County. He's a native of St. Joseph, Missouri. It doesn't say anything about him on the mound at Johnson County, so we're likely seeing his first collegiate appearance on the mound. 8 pitchers, and now Braden Lukart, a position player, asked to try to get a couple of outs here. Jason Walk has singled, struck out 3 times, and laid down a bunt. And Lukart pours that one in there for a called strike. So we've seen 100 miles an hour on the stadium radar gun by Lambert, and we're now seeing a position player trying to nail this one down. And that's a great block by Mauricio Mion, considering that was about a 51-foot something. Two balls and 1 strike to the OU leadoff man. Sooners struck for 2 in the second, 2 in the third. Wichita State's only run to this point came in the bottom of the third. It was 4-1. It stayed that way until the 8th inning. And Oklahoma tacked on 4 more in the 8th. And walks to load the bases. And now this is the last guy that you want to see come up there if you're a Shocker, and that's Bryce Madron, who's got the eye of a hawk up there at the plate, facing a position player. Just trying to guide one into the strike zone. He threw a strike on his first pitch, but hasn't been all that close ever since. And again, this is a helpless feeling if you're in that Shocker dugout, because you know full well you got 9 more innings to play tomorrow. And you're just hoping that Lukart can get you through the 9th inning here, because I'm not exactly sure what the next move would be if you're Brian Green and trying to get an out or two if Lukehart can't. And that one burns the left fielder, Williams. And all three runs are going to come around to score. Actually going to stop the third runner. I was just getting ready to say that Madron did Lukehart a favor by putting that ball in play, but he hit it right over the top of Williams' head. And that chases Mudler and Willits home. And walk stop. Carmichael 0 for 3 with a couple of walks tonight. There's a called strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. So Wichita State, for as good a season as they've had, and they are in the midst of one, they're 18-9. They've been really good on the weekends, but haven't been able to buy a win in the midweek in there for a strike. They lost Oklahoma State a week ago, 3-0. They lost K-State prior to that, 8-6. Split with Nebraska on a Tuesday-Wednesday get-together. Chopping ground ball, it goes foul. And then you go back to that Oklahoma game in Norman. Shockers lost that one 5-3. So the only 2 midweek wins that Wichita State has, you got to go back to February 28th in Tulsa against Oral Roberts. And then the Wednesday the 13th game against Nebraska, in which they won 9-3. Two balls and 2 strikes to Carmichael. So it looks like Oklahoma's going to snap out of their little mini slump as they score early and late. In the air to left, this should be playable for Williams. Run's going to tag and score, walk, makes it 11-1. But I think at this point, it's pretty safe to say all involved would just as soon one more out get recorded and then everybody go on their merry way in an 11-1 runaway for Oklahoma. So 4 in the 8th and 3 more here in the 9th. Anthony McKenzie with a runner at second and 2 down. Shockers would have Mion, Hayworth, and Gannon Snyder due up in the bottom of the 9th. Two balls and a strike as Braden Lukehart just trying to muster up one more out here in the top of the 9th. So after Jeremiah Arnett, Holmes, Munns, Oswald, and Lukehart have all been touched for at least a run since they've come into the game. High in the air, left center field. This should take care of it. David Johnson squeezes it, and it's the last chance for Wichita State as they come to bat in the bottom of the 9th. And what is turned into a runaway, Oklahoma turning a 4-1 game into an 11-1 game over the last couple of innings. So Lambert goes 1 inning in relief, and Bowman trying to close this one out. And this is Bowman's first action of the year. It'll be Mian, and then Hayworth, and then Snyder in that order, due up, assuming Brian Green doesn't go to the bench. Mian 0 for 3. And believe it or not, he came up in a big spot only a couple of innings ago. That's a long time ago, since it was the 7th inning until now the 9th, which has taken an eternity. But back then, way back then in the 6th inning, Mian came up with the bases loaded and hit into a double play in a 4-1 game facing Jace Minor. That kept it a 4-1 game. And since then, Oklahoma went to work. They didn't score in the 7th, but tacked on 4 in the 8th and 3 in the 9th. And the 1 ball and 2 strikes to Mauricio Mian. Actually hit the ball okay all 3 times. Didn't have anything to show for it. 2 flies to center and that hard ground ball right at Nicholas, the second baseman. Jason Bowman, redshirt junior from Peoria, Illinois, and transfer from LSU. One out in the Wichita State 9th. It's really been a tale of 2 pitching staffs tonight, to be perfectly frank. This Oklahoma staff has walked only 1 and struck out 8. And they have run 8 pitchers out there. Wichita State has run 8 plus a position player out there. And Wichita State, really the stat of the game is OU pitchers have walked just 1. Wichita State pitchers have walked 13. Lane Hayworth 0 for 3. And that's fair down the right field line. So Hayworth will pick up his first base hit. And down 10, he won't get too greedy. He'll settle for a 1-out double. Wichita State's 9th hit out in front in the hit column right now, 9-8. But they are 10 runs down. Will Stark will get an at bat here. Stark will hit for Snyder. Gannon Snyder got a Baltimore chop infield hit. His only time up there. Will Stark this year is 0 for 4. He is appearing in his 8th game. And it's no balls and 2 strikes. Durnan due up next. With Oklahoma just trying to put the finishing touches on this one. Bowman way ahead in the count, 0-2. And that's that for Stark. So a 3-pitch strikeout, and now Oklahoma is 1 out away. And it will be Cam Durnan. Durnan, one of the bright spots, not only tonight, but over the last handful of games for him. He's gotten off to a really slow start offensively in his freshman season, but has picked it up quite a bit lately. He had hits in all 3 of the Rice games and 2 more tonight. That one's well outside. Durnan against Rice, 4 out of 11 with 3 runs batted in, 2 for 3 tonight. Hayworth with a 1-out double. He's out there with 2 down now. Bowman trying to put a bow on this one. And he's 2 strikes away from doing that. Can only presume that Grant Stevens will get the win tonight because it's looking more and more like that was a predetermined split, that Stevens would only go a few, and then Skip Johnson would run a bunch of relievers out there, and that's going to make it into center field for a base hit. Durnan has a 3-hit night. Hayworth scores, and Cam Durnan, 3 out of 4 with a run batted in. So that Thursday, that was his previous high game, multi-hit game, but got a 3-hit game tonight. Now Camden Johnson. And down to second goes Cam Durnan on fielder's indifference. Cam Johnson, a very rare hitless night tonight, 0 for 4. Going to sound weird, but part of the reason why Wichita State was short-circuited offensively tonight is, frankly, no Oklahoma pitcher hit them. Wichita State, one of the best in the country at getting hit. They're in the top 10, and none of them have gotten hit tonight. They've had to earn everything they've gotten. Wichita State actually got hit 6 times in a game twice in the Rice series. Thursday and Saturday. But none so far here tonight. 3-1 to Camden Johnson. And Bowman misses and loses Johnson, so 2 on. Now Dave and Johnson, 2 for 4, pair of singles and a couple of strikeouts too. Little tapper foul. The Shockers will be back at it tomorrow. That's on ESPN Plus also, 6 o'clock. Kansas comes to town. And then the Shockers will head to Tampa to take on South Florida. Meanwhile, Oklahoma will go back to the Sooner State and take on Oklahoma State in the Bedlam series. This will get Oklahoma to 16-12. Bowman takes care of Dave and Johnson, and that takes care of Wichita State. So Oklahoma scores early, they score late, and they pour it on Wichita State tonight. Final 11-2. We'll be right back.